The Guard Dog. Chapter 2. Nobody will buy him, said the other puppies later, that's for sure. What a racket, said the sheepdog. It made me feel quite ill, said the gun dog. A really common noise, said the guide dog. Made by a really common animal, said the show dog. Puh, said the lap dog. And they all stared balefully at the guard dog. The sooner he is sold, the better, they said. And that afternoon, he was. Into the pet shop walked a tall lady with a face that looked as though it had a bad smell under its nose, and a small fat girl. I'm looking for a puppy, said the lady to the shopkeeper. For my daughter. I know nothing about dogs. Which of these would you recommend? All of the puppies lolloped forward to the inner wire of the pen, whinnying and wagging and generally looking as irresistible as puppies do. All that is, except the guard dog. He sat alone, small and silent. He was not exactly sulking, that was not in his nature, but he still felt very hurt. Nobody would buy him, that's for sure, they had said. He resigned himself to life in the pet shop. The shopkeeper was busy explaining the various virtues of the 5 pedigree puppies, when the fat child, who was standing sucking her thumb, took it out with a plop. She pointed at the guard dog. Want that one, she said. Oh, that's just a mongrel puppy, dear, said the shopkeeper. I expect that Mummy... Want that one. But darling... The small fat girl stomped her small fat foot, and she frowned horribly. She hunched her shoulders, and with a movement that was as sudden as it was decisive, she jammed her thumb back into her small fat mouth. She wants that one, said her mother. By the end of that day, the guard dog was feeling pretty pleased with life. To be sure, there were things about his new owners he did not quite understand. It seemed, for example, that simple pleasures like chewing carpets or the bottom edges of curtains drove the lady into what he considered a quite unreasonable rage. And as for the child, she was temperamental, he thought, to say the least. Though at first she seemed willing to play with him, she soon began to complain that his teeth were too sharp, or his claws were too scratchy, or his tongue was too slobbery. And he made a ridiculous fuss over a doll which had sported a fine head of hair and was now bald. Strange creature, he thought, that night, when at last all was quiet. But I mustn't grumble. I'm warm and well fed, and this seems a very fine house for a guard dog to guard. Which reminds me, it's time I went on my rounds. Ears cocked, nose quivering, he pattered off on a tour of the downstairs room. His patrol over, he settled down in his basket in the kitchen. There was plain evidence that he had done his duty. In the centre of the drawing room, for example, there was a fine white fleece rug, and in the centre of the rug was a bright yellow pool. And in other rooms, there were other messes. Comfortable now, the guard dog closed his extremely small eyes. It had been a tiring day, and he was just drifting off to sleep when suddenly, outside of the kitchen door, he heard a stealthy sound, and he leapt to his feet.